Why is anti-Semitism rising in the UK?
Why is anti-Semitism?
And do you think a certain member of the panel may bear some responsibility for this?
Well, I see, David, that with characteristic care you have carefully balanced the audience this evening. The question...
Listen,
well, listen,
I'll bring you in.
You can be the lions.
Let Mr. Galloway
You can be the lions. I'll be Daniel. You will not stop me speaking. You will not stop me speaking. You will not stop me speaking, however much you shout. Because when the Charlie Hebdo affair erupted, there were millions of people demanding that freedom of speech should be protected. And no one in Britain will accept the right of those shouting at me now to exclude a British Member of Parliament from the BBC in any constituency in Britain. None of you will. No. I'm very sorry that Jonathan Freedland, in what he has just said, has given credence to the absolutely false allegation implicit in the question. You see, I know about political violence. I was assaulted 3 times in 4 months in London. Well, you say I wonder why. This is, of course, making my point. You see, you're in favour of some political violence, but against other political violence. You're in favour of freedom of speech for some people, but not for other people. Not a single, not one single spokesman for the Jewish community, not a single Jewish community newspaper condemned the assaults upon me, which have led to the imprisonment of 1 man and the fining of 2 others.
George, can you come?
Did you set me up here?
No, you're not.
Am I on trial here?
No.
Well, let me speak.
Answer the question.
Let me speak. I'm being bayed at by the audience.
All right, George.
I've been directly accused by another panellist. Let me answer.
What he accused you of, and what I'd like you to address, not about how you've been assaulted.
No, I will.
But the conflation between Israel and Jewishness, or Jews, which is what actually...
This is a dangerous conflation. It's a false synonym. Zionism and Israel are different things from Judaism and Jewishness. And anybody who confuses these 2 things, whether they're an anti-Semite or whether they are so-called leaders of the Jewish community, is making a grave mistake. Now, the Community Safety Trust, as Jonathan has just done, blamed the spike on what Jonathan described as a resumption of violence in Gaza last summer. I think what he meant was the mass murder of 2,136 Palestinians locked up in a prison camp called Gaza. 500 of them children. 500 of them children. He called it... All
right, listen, all right, hold on a second.
He called it a resumption of violence. Other people call it mass murder by Israel. No.
All right, now, George,
never...
Just wait a moment, George. Look, you've got a number of you are just shouting. There are a number of people who I can see who are actually agreeing with what George is saying. I'd like just, George, if you'd pause a moment. Let's hear from you, because you've been shouting there in the corner there.
Thank you.
Make your remarks, and one of the 2 of you who've been shouting. Because I want this to be, which it should be in question time, a reasoned debate, not a shouting match. You go first, and then I'll give George a chance to answer what you say, and then we'll have the other members of the panel. You go first.
George, your comments are deliberately provocative. Just last year, you declared Bradford an Israeli free zone. In doing so, what you did is you took a deep-rooted, multifaceted conflict in another area of the world and brought it to the streets of the UK. And in doing that, you directed your comments indirectly to the Jewish community. And as a result of that, you put the British Jewish community on the front line at a very volatile time.
can't tell you how deeply I and people who support me will resent the course of this part of the programme. Anti-Semitism is a foul and virulent form of racism which led in the 1930s and 40s to the Holocaust, the greatest crime in human history. I wasn't born then. I had nothing to do with that. And if I had been born then, I would have been the first in the line at the recruitment office to fight fascism, which was a Christian European phenomenon. Now, everything that's been said with melancholy.
Do you know how many priests and nuns were
Please, just take your hand off me. Take your hands off me. Everything that's been said here with melancholy about the shadow cast by the rise in anti-Semitism could be said many-fold about the Islamophobia and the fear of Muslims in Britain. The number of attacks on Muslims, on Muslim property, is many times more than these fascistic attacks. It is many times more than these fascistic attacks on Jews and Jewish property. Why can't we all oppose anti-Semitism and Islamophobia? Why can't we oppose not just the attacks on kosher, but the attacks on halal?
Of course,
which
I oppose that too.
UKIP, who are not here tonight, just yesterday said they would ban, meaning that the observant Jews and observant Muslims in this country would have to leave the country. Why can't we unite around issues like that?
All right,
my last point, David, one last point. I beg you, don't conflate Zionism, Israel, and Jews in London. It's a very dangerous thing to do. No, it's a... No.
All right, don't shout. Please don't shout.
No.
Please don't shout.
Many Jews are not Zionists, and most Zionists are not Jews.
All right.
And it's a very dangerous game that you're playing here. Very, very dangerous.
All right. Can we please have silence for a moment?